Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there.
If you were advising Harbaugh, so I have been, I'm going to admit something to you that you will laugh at. So I have the last 2 years almost compulsively. I use Pro Football Focus's mock draft tool and it's a great, I got to give them credit, man. It's a really cool thing where you can pick whichever team you want to control and their AI will draft for the other teams, offer trades, accept trades. They have like the trade value chart in there, but you can, and they have your big board players ranked. You can do a 7-round draft or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, so I do a lot of those and I send my favorite ones to Brett Beach. Like, hey man, just go ahead. So
I do the same to Les Snead.
Okay.
I take pictures of mock drafts, send it, and I say, am I close? And he will say, we don't do this. We're interested in it. And he'll give me very subtle reminders on what they do.
So last year I had a guy and I felt, I was like, oh man, I've ruined my mock draft reputation. And one of the ones I sent him, I had the Chiefs, I won't say the kid's name, taking a kid in the second round. And he was like, actually not bad, except for your second round pick player X, I think is undraftable because of some whatever. And then I looked, I was like, I had the Chiefs taking a guy at 58 that did not get picked. Oh boy. Like by anyone, in the real draft didn't get picked by anyone, but regardless. So I'm really more locked into this year's draft class than anyone before because I keep doing these mock drafts.
All right. The NBA season is in full swing, coming down the stretch. Then we move right into the playoffs in April, May, and June. I can't wait. Spice things up with Draftking Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA right now. All you have to do is put down $5 and get $150 instantly in bonus bets. Pretty good trade-off. I pay $5, I get $150. North Carolina listeners, do not forget. Welcome to the party. DraftKings Sportsbook now live in your state, North Carolina. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Takes 90 seconds. The code is Colin, C-O-L-I-N. Again, 90 seconds. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app. Put in Colin. New customers bet $5, get $150 back in bonus bets instantly. That is the trade. All right? The code is always Colin. The crown is yours.
If you were advising Harbaugh, let's just assume that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, Caleb, Drake, Jaden, or Jaden, Drake, doesn't matter. And that Arizona stands pat at 4. They're like, we're not trading it. We're taking Marvin. So you're the Chargers.
Yeah.
And you have the option to take Nabers, to take the tackle alt, or to trade the pick with Minnesota for 11, 23, and something else. What would you recommend they do?
Okay, so I am a strong proponent of I picked the right career. You have to lean into certain advantages. And I use the metaphor all the time. Ride the wave. Life presents you with waves. We're all surfers. Take the wave. And I'll give a story to the audience. So when I first moved to Manhattan Beach on Saturdays, I'd get a big coffee at Pete's Coffee or something. I would go down and I would watch the surfers. I'd walk out to the pier and watch the surfers. And what I noticed over the course of time is the very best surfers rode the fewest waves. They were very selective. They wanted the longest, so they chose the best wave. So I use that metaphorically in my life a lot. There's things I'm good at, things I'm not. I'm no longer trying to, in 50s and 60s, trying to prove I'm good at everything. About 15 years ago, I came to the conclusion, ride the wave of life.
Yep.
And I wasn't in Manhattan Beach yet, but it was really a crystallized moment where I watched this and I thought, God, the smartest surfers, they're not wasting their time on shit. They're just waiting an hour for the best wave. So if you're Jim Harbaugh, there is a wave you need to ride for 2 years. You have a significant advantage over every other NFL coach and college personnel because Michigan only recruits 4- and 5-star players.
Because you played against these kids or you recruited against them.
You know the odometer.
Yeah.
You know all the backstory. You've met the parents. So if I'm the Chargers for the next 2 years, I do a ton of trading down.
I totally agree.
And like I would take the 5, I'd say Minnesota, you want a quarterback, you move up. We'll take your other one,
Yeah.
a 3 or 4
11,
this year, a
23 and
2.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a wave advantage. Jim knows personnel. This was always the problem with Belichick. After he seized power, after multiple Super Bowls, he didn't watch games on Saturday. He was a terrible drafter. Pete Carroll, when he seized control for briefly in Seattle, Paul Allen's illness, Jody Allen was not a football fan. Paul really kept his thumb on the organization. Pete took control of the front office. The drafts went into the tank. You can't do both. Harbaugh for 2 years can. He could early. So I would trade. I have thought about this. I would trade down twice. I would trade down Minnesota to 11. And then, by the way, because they need weird things like a center,
Yep.
like a tight end.
They probably take that center from Oregon. I think he is with 3 names. He's going to be available at 20. Yep, exactly.
They could
right.
trade down to 18, 20 and have 13 picks. So I think, again, back to the wave. You have to take. This is what won Pete Carroll the Super Bowl.
So that's what
He was
I'm
hitting
afraid
home
they're going
runs
to
in
do.
the 5th round.
As a Chiefs fan, so everyone's like, oh, are you afraid if the Chargers are going to get Marvin Harrison or Malik Nabers at 5? And I'm like, man, I hope they do. Not because those guys aren't good players, but because adding a great wide receiver to a team that just lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, that's not going to make them, demonstrably better. They have too many needs. But if they like we just said, turn 5 into 11, 23, and something else, and then are sitting at 11 and say to any team behind Denver and the Raiders who are at 12, 13, like, hey, do you guys want a quarterback? Because these teams do. Do you want 11? And now all of a sudden they have, 17, 23, a future first, an extra third, all these things. That's how the Chargers can very fast get right back into it. I have another draft thing that I want to throw at you, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So people think 4 quarterbacks can go in the top 10, right? The 3 guys and then J.J. McCarthy, which I don't understand the J.J. McCarthy thing. I'm not a college football expert, but one of the teams I watched a lot was Michigan. And never once did I watch Michigan was like, that guy's a future top 10 pick, but what do I know?
Yeah.
So those 4 guys, Marvin Harrison and Nabers, are definitely going in the top 10. Yeah. People think Odunze might be able to, whatever, but let's say those 2. Joe Alt, the best tackle, and then maybe another tackle, and maybe Brock Bowers, maybe Rome Odunze. Here's why I say that. I just listed 8, maybe 9, 10 guys. They're all offensive players. So if you're there, this is similar to the 2021 draft, which had all those 5 quarterbacks and they went earlier or whatever. All of a sudden, Micah Parsons is on the board at 11 because only 2 defensive players have gone. If you're a team that needs defense, you might be able to get the 3rd defensive player taken in this draft at pick 15. Like, that's not an exaggeration. Like, there's 4 quarterbacks, 3 wide receivers, Brock Bowers a tight end, 2 or 3 tackles that everybody loves. That's a dozen players. And so if you need a defensive player, you might be able to get the best defender in the draft with the 11th pick of the draft, which is crazy. But I really think we could have 10 straight offensive players off the board.